Unfortunately, we're all going to take a disgusting trip to his seedy, awful world. It's the man has no class. He has no kindness in his dark, dark heart. And he's depraved. That's my opinion. This is a depraved, disgusting individual.
Diddy completely lost control in court. He threw papers. He screamed at his own lawyers. What triggered it? Megyn Kelly just publicly backed Cassie? And Diddy snapped. What did Megyn say that hit so hard? The courtroom had to be cleared. Security rushed in. It wasn't just chaos. It was a total breakdown. This could be the moment that flips the entire case. Hollywood's already shaking. But now, this might be the explosion no one saw coming. Was this rage or fear?
It's the man has no class. He has no kindness in his dark, dark heart. And he's depraved. That's my opinion. This is a depraved, disgusting individual about whom I wish to hear nothing after this trial is done. The question is he a criminal? Is he basically akin to a mob boss running several criminal enterprises? And while it's very clear to me he is a depraved, disgusting person, we have to prove that he violated the law. I actually think it's going to be pretty easy, but I can see what the defense is doing here, trying to say, all right, he has these, quote, freak-offs, weird, kinky group sex in Hollywood. That's not an illegal thing. It happens all the time.
Cassie Ventura, where she revealed that after the relationship had ended with Sean Combs, there was an incident where he raped her. She talked about how later on she had PTSD flashbacks of her experience with him, of the freak-offs. And at one point she came home and told her husband while their kids were sleeping that she just couldn't take it anymore and thought about walking into traffic.
If you don't have the consent of the women or the men, as the case may be, it is illegal. But okay, we're going to argue over whether they were willing participants. It's almost like a Harvey Weinstein situation where he's going to say they willingly took drugs.
Another thing we learned about yesterday was her drug addiction. She said that she had an addiction to opiates, Errol.
They're going to say, absolutely not. He drugged me against my will. Maybe there were drugs in that baby oil, maybe in another way, but I definitely didn't consent to being drugged or to being raped or sodomized by P. Diddy.
The courtroom fell silent. No one moved. No one spoke. And then it all exploded. For weeks, Diddy had kept his cool, polished, collected, unbothered. But yesterday, that image shattered in a way no one expected. It started like any other. Afternoon in court. The usual rhythm, the same routine, lawyers reviewing notes, reporters scribbling. Diddy seated, straight-faced, unreadable, but beneath that calm, something was brewing. Then, it happened. In one instant, everything spiraled. Diddy stood up, abruptly, his face twisted in anger. His hands were trembling. And then, he snapped. Documents went flying. Papers ripped through the air like confetti at a funeral. Courtroom guards launched into motion. The judge froze. Even seasoned attorneys looked shaken. And then came the yelling. But it wasn't aimed at prosecutors. It wasn't at the judge. It was at his own legal team. Diddy, the man who built a billion-dollar empire on precision and control, was screaming at the very people defending him. Everyone heard it. There was no whispering, no subtlety, just raw public meltdown. His lawyers leaned in and trying to talk him down. They placed hands on his shoulders, spoke softly, urgently, but he wasn't hearing it. He shook them off, one by one, like they were the enemy. He pulled out his phone, waved it in their faces, pointing, shouting, showing them something. People in the back said they could hear his voice cracking. "He's lost it," someone whispered. And then they heard the words, "She's lying. They're all turning on me. Everyone." Diddy paced back and forth, like a man trapped, running his fingers through his hair, tugging at his collar. His breathing, heavy, erratic. You could see it in his eyes. This wasn't just rage. It was fear. Real, paralyzing fear. The judge gave the signal. Clear the courtroom. People scrambled. Security teams blocked cameras. Phones were shoved into bags. And Diddy's personal guards, huge, silent, formed a wall around him, not to hold him back, but to hide him, to shield him from being seen like this. a veteran court reporter, someone who's covered Britney, Kanye, even Depp v. Heard, said, "I've never witnessed anything like this. Not in 15 years. This was next level." And here's the kicker. This wasn't a one-time outburst. Sources close to the case said they've never seen Diddy unravel like this. Not in closed-door strategy meetings. Not during depositions. Not ever. His attorney begged for a recess. Begged. But Diddy kept cutting him off. "Let me talk to the judge," he barked. "I need to say it myself." But the judge stood her ground. She summoned both teams to the bench. Diddy lunged forward to follow. His own lawyers physically blocked him, one of them whispering, "Stop! Not now!" So what happened? What triggered a man so used to control to completely lose it? That's where it gets chilling. Court. Filings from this morning confirm, just minutes before Diddy snapped, he received a notification, a single alert, a link, a broadcast, and it came from Megyn Kelly. Yes, that Megyn Kelly. Her new segment had just gone live, and in it, she didn't hold back. She publicly declared her full support for Cassie, called the evidence overwhelming, and laid out a timeline that, if true, could destroy everything Diddy has built. But that's not all. Megyn didn't just comment on the case. She weaponized her platform, millions of viewers, a loyal base, a reputation for legal dissection, and she used it to go after him. The moment Diddy saw that notification, everything changed. His entire mask dropped. Gone was the composed mogul. Gone was the courtroom tactician. What was left? A man spiraling, cornered, exposed. You see, well, this isn't just about one meltdown. This is about the narrative crumbling. Diddy's always controlled the story, the image, the spin, but yesterday the control slipped. On camera, and the internet noticed. Clips are leaking. Courtroom sketches are trending. Memes are exploding on Twitter. Fans are asking, is this who he's been hiding all along? The silence around this case was already deafening. But now the noise is unstoppable. And here's the question. You can lose a trial. You can even lose money. But when you lose the illusion of who you are in front of millions, do you ever get that back? Or is this the end of the Diddy we thought we knew? What exactly did he see that made him fall apart in front of the entire world? Let us know in the comments. Because this.
And what's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. You know, people who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, Austin Powers, Mike Myers. Why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage they have to sit on that witness stand across from someone who can buy and sell their whole families, who is accused of behaving violent in the past toward both male and female adversaries or so-called friends who ticked him off. He allegedly firebombed this one rapper's car for allegedly being interested in the same woman. There are questions about whether he's potentially done worse than that to others. And these young women with no power and no money who could put him behind bars for the rest of his life have to sit there, look him in the eye and say what he did to them. Now, that's going to be a very tall order. There's already been a question about whether one has bailed. They couldn't find this one witness late last week, and the prosecution wasn't sure whether she'd left, pieced out. And even if they don't piece out, will they stick by their stories on the stand? It's a very, very tall order.
Something shifted this week, and no one saw it coming. Megyn Kelly, known for political firestorms and icy takedowns, did something no one expected. She abandoned the headlines, and instead, she locked in on Cassie's case against Diddy. Not just a mention, not just a quote. She devoted an entire 20-minute broadcast to dismantle every layer of Diddy's public image. And what she uncovered was terrifying. This wasn't Megyn Kelly the commentator. This was Megyn Kelly the prosecutor. With her signature stare, cold, surgical, and relentless, she picked apart the timeline, the texts, the so-called statements of innocence. And what she found shattered the illusion. Text by text, day by day, she built a case brick by brick, until one thing became painfully clear. Diddy might not be the victim at all. He might be exactly what Cassie said he was. And then came the moment that froze everyone. She looked straight into the lens. No teleprompter, no script, no filter, and said, as a woman and a mother, I cannot stay silent. The evidence speaks for itself. You could feel it. This wasn't a segment. This was a line in the sand. Her voice cracked. Her hands shook slightly. Because this wasn't just media coverage. It was personal. But that wasn't even the wildest part. Megyn dropped details no one had seen before. Not TMZ. Not Rolling Stone. No one. She exposed alleged text messages, ones that show Diddy possibly admitting he lost control during fights with Cassie. She revealed financial records, large unexplained payments made right after violent incidents. Not bonuses, not contract terms, just payouts. Quiet. Quick. Untraceable. Until now. And people are asking the same thing. How did Megyn get this? Who's leaking to her? And why now? She didn't stop there. Her segment included interviews with 2 domestic violence experts, not influencers, not celebrities, real professionals. They reviewed the timeline, the psychology, the patterns, and they said what many were too scared to admit. Cassie's story doesn't just sound real, it matches the exact blueprint of abuse, the kind where explosions are followed by apologies, where violence is wrapped in gifts, where silence becomes survival. One expert said, "That surveillance footage, it's not rare. It's textbook." And that's when things really started to spiral, because Megyn Kelly isn't just anyone. She has reach, millions of viewers, the kind of viewers who vote, who serve on juries, who control narratives, Hollywood insiders, executives, other celebs. They all saw it. And this time, she didn't hold back. She called out other networks, shamed the silence, asked why, with all this evidence, so many media outlets were still playing it safe. "Where is everyone?" she demanded. "Why the silence when the truth is screaming?" She named names, threw journalistic neutrality out the window, and stood unapologetically behind Cassie. And the timing, it couldn't have been more explosive, because just hours after Megyn's bombshell aired, Diddy walked into court and lost control. Sources confirm he was watching clips from Megyn's broadcast on his phone, right before his now infamous courtroom breakdown. Coincidence? No chance. Her words, her exposure, were the final push. Diddy's team couldn't contain him. His composure cracked. The cameras caught it. The internet devoured it. And suddenly, this wasn't just a scandal. It became a collapse. Because Megyn Kelly didn't just report a story. She triggered a reckoning.
After she went to rehab, she wrote a book about her experience. And she had her lawyer send it to Combs. She wanted to be compensated for the pain that he had put her through, she said. And she asked for $30 million. Combs, she was told, didn't take this seriously. Later, when she filed a civil lawsuit against him, we found out yesterday that he ended up settling that for $20 million. She, of course, was still required to take the stand in this criminal case. And when she was asked, Errol, why she is testifying in this case, she said, "I'm here to do the right thing. I can't carry this anymore. The shame, the guilt." But in terms of the case that we're starting to see, the prosecution, we're seeing the foundations of their charges of racketeering, of sex trafficking, of transportation for prostitution. Cassie's testimony has revealed how, in a way, she was almost like a sex slave for Sean Combs. He directed everything that she did, the way that he made her orchestrate these freak-offs that they were engaged in. He had her travel with him. They had escorts traveling to meet them. There were employees who were involved in this, so that ties into this allegation that he was running a criminal enterprise that was running all of this.
Megyn Kelly just dropped a televised nuke that's rocking Diddy's world to the core. And this time, it's not just whispers or anonymous tips. It's receipts, names, footage, and fallout. Kelly didn't just side with Cassie. She dismantled Diddy's entire public image, one devastating truth bomb at a time. It started with that now infamous hotel surveillance video. You know the one. She paused it frame by frame, dissecting it with the cold precision of a prosecutor. "This isn't someone having a bad day," she said, her voice low but sharp. "This is someone comfortable with violence." The internet exploded, but Kelly wasn't done. Not even close. What came next? A full frontal assault on the empire Diddy built. She stared into the camera and said, "Let's talk about how fortunes are built." That's when jaws dropped. Kelly claimed, straight-faced, that the music mogul's success was padded by fear, intimidation, and whispered threats. She dropped 3 specific cases of artists who were allegedly silenced or had careers derailed for speaking out. Names were named, faces were recognized, and Twitter lost its mind. And just when you thought it couldn't get more brutal, she brought up the ones who vanished, 3 former insiders, longtime collaborators, industry heavyweights who've suddenly ghosted Diddy in the last few weeks. Kelly named them one by one, and then asked the question that made everyone freeze. Why now? The implication. They're distancing themselves because they know what's coming. Then came the part that sent actual chills down viewers' spines. Financial records. Multiple 6-figure payments, she said, followed by airtight NDAs. She didn't need to say the words. Everyone watching knew what it sounded like. Hush money. Then, Kelly did what no one else in media has dared to do. She called out A-list celebrities, by name, major stars who've shared stages and deals with Diddy. She stared directly into the lens and asked, "Where is your voice now?" Silence. Deafening. Telling. But the final blow was the quietest. Kelly ended her segment with a soft warning, almost a whisper. This isn't just about Cassie. This is about a pattern, and more women, many more, are preparing to speak. She didn't yell. She didn't dramatize. She didn't have to. Courtroom sources say that very clip, that sentence, was playing on Diddy's phone when he completely lost control during a recent hearing. Someone texted it to him with just 2 words. It's over. That wasn't a prediction. That was a verdict. And here's the most terrifying part. It's not what Kelly already exposed that has him panicking. It's what she hasn't said yet. So now the question isn't, is Diddy guilty? It's
Hard from the girl group Danity Kane. She is likely on the famous people list because she's one of Diddy's many accusers.
Yeah.
Not in his criminal case, but she sued him civilly last year, claiming that she saw him abuse Cassie, his girlfriend, and that she herself was sexually assaulted, deprived of food, and cheated out of money that she was owed. Guess what? You're going to hear from her attorney in just a hot minute. But first, I want to bring in News Nation correspondent Caitlin Becker, who's outside the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Caitlin's been covering this case gavel to gavel. Okay, first of all, let's just start with the drip, drip, drip of all the names, because the internet is really on fire. What happened today?
You know, Ashley, a lot of the same things. You get asked these same exact questions about these celebrities with no real context as to why. And you really hit the nail on the head a minute ago when you said jury selection's kind of boring, but not in the Diddy case. Most prospective jurors who come into jury selection have never heard of the defendant, let alone have an opinion of them. But what we heard today was prospective jurors who were excluded because they flat out said they don't like Diddy going into it. They don't have a favorable opinion. One guy said he believed Diddy has enough money to buy his way out of jail. So those jurors immediately excluded. There was also some laughs in the courtroom today from the attorneys and the judge when one prospective juror said that he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't be able to smoke marijuana for all 8 to 10 weeks of the trial. So that person was excluded. But by the end of the day, they'd added 10 more people to that pool of 45 that they're trying to get.
She stayed silent for months. But when Kelly spoke, Cassie's silence finally shattered. No tweets, no interviews, no press conferences. While Diddy's PR machine was spinning nonstop, Cassie vanished from the spotlight. And yet, her silence screamed louder than his statements, but then came the broadcast, and everything changed. Cassie didn't release a statement. She didn't even say a word. But what she did do sent shockwaves through social media. 3 very specific likes on her account. Quiet, calculated, and devastating. One post from a domestic violence advocacy group thanking Kelly for her courage. Another from a music insider, declaring the tide was turning. And the last, a haunting message from a former backup dancer. Truth always comes out. The internet lost it. Fans flooded comment sections, decoding every click, every move. Cassie wasn't just watching, she was responding in silence. Then, her legal team broke their silence too. 2 sentences. That's all it took. We thank all those who have shown courage in speaking truth to power. Ms. Ventura's journey toward justice has been long and difficult, but she does not walk alone. Read it again. That wasn't just a message, it was a shift. A line drawn in the sand. Insiders say Cassie watched Kelly's full segment in absolute silence. No interruptions, no reactions, just tears streaming down her face. When it ended, she whispered one word. Finally, then left the room. Alone, quiet, shaken. But that wasn't the end. Later that night, she replayed it. Took notes, prepared. Her inner circle, once locked down tight, is now moving with purpose. They've been tracking every post, every celebrity, reaction, building spreadsheets of who's with her and who's gone quiet. And according to one close friend, it's like a dam just broke. Kelly's support? It didn't just change public opinion. It unlocked something in Cassie herself. At least 7 major female celebs have now reached out privately in support. 3 of them worked with Diddy in the past. They're not ready to go public yet, but they're sending one clear message. We believe you. And Cassie, she's standing taller, speaking louder in strategy meetings. Sources say she's reconsidering parts of her testimony, even parts she previously refused to speak about. The Bima. Very next morning, her lead attorney was seen walking into the courthouse, unscheduled, holding a thick manila envelope. Not a coincidence. Not a mistake. This wasn't just paperwork. This was a message. The case isn't the same anymore. Jurors may sit in court, but they live in the real world. And right now, the real world is shifting. Cassie now walks into that courtroom with something she's never had before: public credibility and the power of a movement behind her. But here's what's still unknown.
My reaction was, he's up to the same games. My reaction was, he never mentioned Cassie's name in that apology. So to me, he didn't humble himself enough. I think he said what people wanted to hear, not what he felt. That was just my opinion about it.
The actual level of violence has been very shocking to people. To watch any man do that to a woman, particularly a very high-profile man doing it in such brazen public manner in a public place like that, was even more shocking. That he had no compulsion about doing this where there may be cameras. But was that indicative of Diddy's general behavior towards women?
In my light, I would say yes. In my light, I would say yes. It didn't surprise me when I saw it, because I've seen things to this nature before. I've gotten in between things of this nature before. And this was back in 2012. As we heard, he came back to the hotel and he paid to get the footage, but didn't know, which Cassie said inside her complaint, that they gave her a copy of the footage also. You know what I'm saying? So when you go through life just paying your way out, I really feel like he wasn't sorry about that. Yeah, he might be sorry now. He's sorry that he got caught.
How many times did you personally witness him be violent towards women?
Around 4 or 5 times.
And was that all with Cassie, or was it Cassie and other women?
I seen him with Cassie, and I seen him with Kim Porter, his kid's mother. I've seen them get physical. I've seen him get really physical, grab him up. It was one time that Cassie mentioned inside her lawsuit where she said she had to go over to the London hotel.
Applied her to take drugs. Did you witness that?
Well, yeah, I definitely witnessed that. Drugs was a regular thing there for both of them. And I didn't have no idea that he was forcing her.
The moment Megyn Kelly spoke out, it was like setting off a bomb in the heart of Hollywood. Within hours, the ripple effects started, and they weren't subtle. 3 A-list celebrities, people who've worked closely with Diddy for years, suddenly vanished from their scheduled TV spots. One ghosted a major morning show. Another bailed on a viral podcast taping. The third canceled a high-profile late-night appearance last minute. Their excuses? Scheduling issues, laryngitis, travel delays. Please, no one's buying that, but what happened next was even more brutal. 7 major celebrities quietly hit the unfollow button on Diddy. No statements, no drama, just cold, calculated disconnection. And yes, fans noticed. Social media accounts that track every move lit up like wildfire. 2 of those unfollowers were just seen hugging Diddy at events last year. Now, radio silence. And the message is clear. They're running. fast. Inside Diddy's empire, full-blown panic. Sources inside his office described sheer chaos. Emergency meetings, execs sprinting between conference rooms, the legal team practically living on site. They're building lists, frantically prioritizing which brand partnerships might collapse first. Spoiler alert, 2 already have. One's a liquor brand that was prepping a flashy Diddy collab. The other, a clothing retailer carrying his fashion line. No public statements yet, but insiders say the exits are being mapped out behind closed doors. Campaigns featuring Diddy? Yanked. Marketing plans? Scrapped. This isn't just PR cleanup, it's brand survival. And the media? They've flipped the script. The same entertainment lawyers who danced around neutrality are now calling the case compelling. Credible. One celebrity attorney told CNN, "If I were the defense, I'd be terrified right now." Shows that once buried this story in tiny headlines, they're leading with it. Segments, panels, breaking news. Why? Because the fear is gone. Megyn Kelly broke the silence. And now, it's open season. Behind the scenes, Diddy's team is scrambling. Frantic calls to every industry connection, begging for public support. One music exec got 3 calls in a day, all from Diddy's people, all asking the same thing. Can you say something? Anything? He said no. And that's when it became clear. The dam didn't just crack, it burst. And then came the courtroom explosion. Eyewitnesses say Diddy lost it. This wasn't just an outburst. It was a total meltdown. And it happened right in front of the judge. Her face? Stone cold before. Visibly shaken after. A special hearing was immediately scheduled. Not routine, not normal. A direct response to Diddy's behavior. He now has to appear in person. The court is laying down new rules. Because what happened wasn't just disruptive. It was dangerous. Legal experts are calling it catastrophic. Jury consultants are scrambling. They now have to find jurors who somehow missed the most viral courtroom moment of the year. Good luck with that. This morning, Diddy's legal team filed an emergency motion. They're begging the court to block the media from showing the meltdown footage. They're claiming it'll prejudice the jury. But here's the thing. It happened in open court, with dozens of witnesses, and now the whole world has seen it. Prosecutors wasted no time. They've already weaponized it in court filings, calling it proof of Diddy's uncontrollable rage. The exact behavior Cassie described in her claims. And now, jurors don't have to imagine it. They saw it. We saw it. The judge's demeanor has changed. She's no longer neutral. She's no longer patient now. Diddy's bail is under review. Prosecutors are pushing for tighter restrictions, citing emotional instability and potential risk. They don't want him jailed, not yet, but they want eyes on him everywhere. And here's the chilling truth. Legal. Analysts say defendants only explode like this when they realize they're trapped, when the walls are closing in, and they can't spin the narrative anymore. Diddy's whole defense was built around one idea, that he was calm, collected, innocent. But in one afternoon, he shattered that image himself. No PR team can undo that. And now, the meltdown isn't just evidence, it's confirmation. Confirmation of everything Cassie described. The sudden switch, the hidden fury, the mask, slipping. What's happening now isn't just about a courtroom. It's about power, fear, control. And what happens when someone finally challenges that power and wins? Diddy's connections are vanishing. The brands are bailing. The friends are ghosting. The empire is bleeding out. And the question now isn't whether he survives the case. It's how many others were waiting in silence, watching this wall finally crack, and wondering if it's safe to speak now. So here's the question. If Diddy could lose control like that in a courtroom full of cameras, what went down behind closed doors?